Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello, empaths. Welcome to the show. We hope you're having a beautiful start to your week. We're going to be sharing some great questions and stories that you all have taken the time to share. And we always say this, but we do love this episode because it's time where we get to really show what a community we are and how much we're growing. And we're all in this together. How are you doing, Denise?
I'm okay. And I love that you added that on because I think community is so important right now. We really need to reach out and hold space for each other as much as we possibly can.
I agree to that. All right, I'm going to start us off. Our first one says, I'm working to release some past life blocks and heal some inner childhood wounds. Just generally trying to clear the past and make a clean slate for my future. Are there any crystals you'd recommend to help with this? Well, first of all, I just want to say, I believe that something almost magical happens when we set these really big intentions for clearing, healing, and releasing. And what I've noticed in my own life is just by thinking about it, meditating on it, maybe journaling about it and setting that intention, things will start to shift in my life in wonderful ways. I'll meet someone who says something that I need to hear. I'll find a book that says exactly what I need to read that's going to help me with that. I'll find a crystal and I'll read about it and go, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm intending right now. So just hats off to you for setting this really, really big intention. One of my favorite crystals for working with past life recall is a left timeline activator crystal. And that is any clear quartz crystal you find that has a parallelogram shaped window on one of its faces or sides that points to the left. And that is said to help you access aspects from your past, either your childhood or a past life, depending on the intention you set for your work with that crystal. So that would be my go-to. But also smithsonite is really great for that as well. It's one of its main jobs is to heal inner childhood wounds. And smithsonite is a beautiful stone. You can find it in lovely shades of purples, blues, and greens. And it often grows in this botryoidal shape. It's a really soothing stone in general. Chiastolite is also great for this. Pink opal is so nurturing. I call it the supreme nurturer. So it's a great stone for self-love and learning to mother yourself. So I think that would be a good one. Almost all of the chalcedonies are recommended for inner nurturing and healing, especially orange chalcedony, carnelian as well. Prehnite is my final recommendation. It's that beautiful green stone that's nicknamed the healer's healer because it helps you learn how to heal yourself and set boundaries and space and positive intentions for your own growth. So past life, timeline activator, clear quartz, smithsonite, chiastolite, pink opal, chalcedony, and prehnite.
Wow, that's a lot. How common is the crystal with the left facing?
You'd be surprised. I love to go into crystal stores and they'll often, clear quartz is like, you remember those movies in the 80s and the girl would be like totally overlooked by everyone because she wore glasses. And then at the end, she'd take off her glasses and everyone would go, oh my gosh, you're beautiful. Come join us. Do you remember that like trope that went through the 80s movies? That's how I feel about clear quartz. It's like so overlooked. And so you'll go into these crystal stores and you'll often see like a cardboard box or a wicker basket. And there's all these clear quartz points just dumped in there. And there'll be a little sign that says like $2 to $5. How about it? That's a treasure trove, Denise. I'll go through those. And usually my kids are with me and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is an Isis point. They don't even know what they have here. Or this is a Jane Dow channeler, which is very rare, but not really. So you'd be surprised. If you look through those little quartz points you see in metaphysical stores, I have them all over my house because they're not that hard to find.
And I really do love clear quartz. I think it's we've talked about this. It's an activator for all the energy. But what I've noticed lately is I've been comparing the feel, because that's how I don't know enough about it, but I go by feel, of like a clear quartz from the Himalayan region versus South America versus the States versus, and just feeling the subtle frequency differences between them, which is kind of fun.
Oh, that really is. I love crystals that come from the Himalayan areas. Our friend who sent us the Himalayan black tourmaline and the clear quartz,
Yes.
such beautiful energy in that. I think that's a wonderful way to learn your crystals too, is to look at where they're sourced.
Mm-hmm. Well, and thank you for all that really good information about the different crystals.
Sure.
Our next one, my partner and I just bought a house and I'm still getting to know it and its energy. I've never felt a presence, or at least one that's unhappy that we're there, and I sleep more soundly than I ever have in my entire life. I grew up in an old house and went to college in Charleston, South Carolina. I know when I'm not alone, to say the least. A couple nights ago, I was super restless, spiraling about life while lying in bed when I heard 7 distinct knocks on a door downstairs. I immediately pulled up our Ring camera app and looked to see who was there, but no one stood at the door. No one was even in the street or walking by. I stared at the live camera footage for about 10 minutes, waiting to see something, but nothing happened. I started getting freaked out, thinking about whether it was a person or something else, and the knocks kept replaying in my head. I know it was 7 knocks with no doubt in my mind. Eventually, I woke up my partner to scan the house with me. We peeked out of windows and checked behind every door. Still no sign of anything or anyone physical. When we returned to bed, I had to address my current fight or flight response my body had adopted and told myself to calm down. You're not in danger. What if it was a sign? What was I thinking about before I heard the knocks? But I don't remember exactly what preceded the knocks. One thought was about my partner's brother battling gnarly brain cancer and how much I love him and his family. I know I thought about my grandma at some point and how, although she is so strong and independent, I worry about her being alone and far away. I was wishing she would move closer to family. I also remember thinking about a symbolic tree from a dream I've had and carving the initials of me plus the person I strive to be like, professionally speaking, my idol woman in business. After this swamp of thoughts, I was interrupted by the knocks. I started looking up the symbolism of knocks and got a little scared because there's a theory that people hear knocking before someone dies. Was my brother-in-law going to make it? Is my grandma okay? Is the person I strive to be not meant to be? I know 7 is a holy number and symbolic of God, heaven, and the Holy Spirit. And although I'm not religious, I wonder if this translates to the universe as a whole. Maybe my thoughts have been heard and I'm validated that all is in good hands. Or is this an experience of warning to brace for a super transformative year, good or bad? Have you two experienced anything like this? What does your intuition say about the vibe of this sign? I think that no matter how long you do this work, no matter how much you trust spirit, no matter how open you are and curious, when you get abruptly awakened by a noise, a sound, a knock, that's shattering. That's really, really hard to stay in the I'm so zen and isn't this cool? It must be a sign. It is for me anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
I think Ed and Lorraine Warren would be like, who's there?
and I think the 7 is significant. I didn't get a foreboding feeling. I'm not a big fan of the whole, I don't want to refer to them as old wives' tales, but the old lore that is always so fear-based. I think that maybe that's part of where we all are right now in stepping into our own power and light, is saying this may be an indicator, but I'm not going to let it be mine.
Right, exactly. And I think there's so many other issues that surround this, the feelings and the thoughts that she had before this happened. My first instinct was it was spirit, either her ancestors or her guides knocking to say, whoa, slow down there with those. I love how she called it her swamp of thoughts. Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
great?
That is.
And I felt like they were knocking to say, wake up, girly, like get out of this, swamp of negative spiraling worry. We're here for you. We got your back. So that was the way I took it. But I completely understand why she emailed us, because these things happen and we're like, what, wait, what's going on? Do I need to brace for something? And it's a reminder of how little in our life is really in our control. And those old wives' tales, Denise, I feel the same way as you do. And yet, I
Hmm.
remember, I don't know, 5 years ago now, I was upstairs in my little office writing, and I do have a cat door. So maybe the cat, I don't know, but there was a bird flying in my house. And the house was all decorated for Christmas. And so I had, you know how you have like the fake Christmas trim. I have it, I always pin it to the inside of all my windows too. That wren went from one garland to another for like 6 hours. I could not get that bird out of my house. I videoed it and I posted it on Facebook. And a bunch of friends were like, oh, that's a wren. That's a good sign. Don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, but we all know what it means when a bird flies in your house. Nothing happened. And I
Hmm.
was kind of on high alert. And then here's my yet, when my mother was about to get sick, if you remember me sharing with you guys, that bird kept tapping at the window
Right.
every day. And we were like, oh, hello. So I don't know if those old wives are supported to this day because of experiences like that, or if it's us trying to prescribe meaning to these things that happen. But I always say you have to go with your feelings, because there was something peaceful about that little wren in my house all day. I remember writing, and I remember coming downstairs and checking on it. I left a little bowl of bird seed on my dining room table for it. It was kind of, I don't know, there's something comforting about it. Whereas the bird knocking at my mom's window, my sister kept videoing it and telling and sharing it to me and saying something's up. This feels weird. This feels different. So don't you think no matter what is happening, knocking on the door or a bird flying in, you have to always go within and think, how is this making me feel? And trusting that, rather than what you or I say or old wives say, or and poor wives. Can we stop calling them old, by the way? Why isn't it ever young wives, new wives, honeymooning wives? But don't you think you have to go with what your heart is feeling?
Yes. And I think you are absolutely spot on with that. It was spirit, it was ancestors, it was angelic team, whatever this person's dream team support, where that comes in from, was to let them know, let this person know that she's not alone and that they are there and they're going to help her work through this. And one little thing, and I did it this morning because right now with the energies in the world, it's hard not to get in that spiral, is just to take 5 minutes and get a pen and paper and just dump it out. Just pour it out, whether it's, I haven't cleaned up my yard before winter, my kids are this. So just like take 5 minutes and dump it out, and you're going to be amazed with just a little semblance of peace that comes in once you clear all that stuff out of the cobwebs.
I think we should copy this listener, and I think we should title that My Swamp Thoughts. You know what image I keep seeing is Cher slapping Nicolas Cage and Moonstruck going, snap out of it. I feel like her, like her guides were knocking on the door to be like, snap out of it. We got you. All right. Our next one says, I wanted to share a special story that involves my family member and the single greatest synchronicity of my life. My brother had been battling metastatic melanoma to the brain for 4 years, and he passed away this summer. Back when his cancer treatment first began in July of 2019, he was admitted into a rehab facility as the powerful treatments took a major toll on his body, and he needed help regaining his strength. Fast forward a few weeks after he passed away, his daughter was scrolling through his Facebook page and came across an extraordinary post from 2019. It was a photo of the rehab's recreation calendar. My brother had circled July 27th and added several stars around it. He did that because someone named Karen was doing Reiki at the rehab facility, and ironically, a friend of mine also named Karen was going to be doing Reiki for him remotely on that exact same day. We all got a kick out of the serendipity, and that was why he circled and starred the date. Well, he passes away 4 years later to the exact day, on July 27th. As a medium and someone who's been communicating with spirit for 2 decades, I can say this is one of the most profound examples that we do, in fact, live in the matrix, whatever that means. To make this synchronicity even more powerful, the comment sections to his Facebook post said July 27th was a very interesting date thanks to number 5. He calls me number 5 as I'm the 5th sibling in our family. More to come on that in the future, is what he added. I thought your podcast community would appreciate the significance of this extraordinary synchronicity. Now I'm convinced more than ever that time is not linear, and at a soul level, although our human brains have a hard time grasping this, we can know information at a subconscious level, even including the day of our passing. Wow. What do you think about that?
I love the validation. I love the synchronicity, and it's a beautiful story. But I do. I think this is another way of saying, we're all tapping into that available collective energy that doesn't have the constraints of time and space. It's limitless. It is absolutely limitless. I'm kind of weird about like knowing when you're going to pass. I don't think I don't want to know.
I don't either.
I don't know because I think that puts a timeline on things and I don't think it's our call. I mean, maybe we contracted for it coming into this life. Okay, I'll be here. I'll do this. This is how I'll pass. These are the lessons I'll get from it. But if I knew, okay, I have X amount of time and this is going to happen, that would completely change my outlook on life.
Yeah, it would be weird. But the numerology of people's dates, birth and endings is interesting to look at,
Mm-hmm.
For example, one of my daughter's friends, her father had a lucky number. I can't remember. Let's say it's 28. And that was his football jersey number. That, it was everything was, and he died on the 28th. And that always felt strange. I saw a weird Facebook post, over the Halloween season, like creepy things. And one of them was this guy was assigned a license plate and it had like, I don't know, ABC. And then it was like 5293. And he ended up dying on May 2nd, 1993.
Oh my.
Like, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with the listener that time is not linear. And
Mm-hmm.
I agree that on some subconscious level, our soul must know.
I agree.
We pre-plan most of this. It is more like a blueprint than a, predestined map. But I agree with her that we know.
Yes.
I just don't want to consciously know. Thank you very much.
Right. But this is a great story. I'm glad this person shared it with us because it also they had mentioned that they're a practicing medium, so they know that there's something more. And I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about that. When you truly in your heart believe that there's something more, even if you can't physically touch it, that's such a comfort.
It really is.
Okay. Our next one. Last night, I was awake browsing Facebook in the dark while my husband and dog slept soundly next to me. I suddenly felt something touch me on the arm. I looked at the spot, my sleeping husband and dog. Nothing was close to my arm. I realized there really wasn't any way my husband could have touched me without movement on the bed. Anyway, this was my second strange touch while all was quiet in my bedroom. The other was about a year ago when I felt what seemed to be the soft, padded side of a large animal paw. I have small dogs and cats, but they were sleeping. This time it was early morning and my husband was off to work, but the feeling was so distinct. I'd love any thoughts on these experiences. I think we get a lot of visits in the night. I really do, because we're more receptive. Even if you're just laying awake, scrolling, or you're still in a more subdued, quiet, receptive space than if you're full speed ahead in your day. I think that animals are, it could be a spirit animal, it could be an animal who passed, it could be I think that they come in and visit as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I know, I agree. But I also would like to add, if you find this intriguing and interesting and it makes you curious, like, oh, who are you? Then you can dive into meditation and journaling and maybe even some dream insights that way. But if you're more like me and you're like, don't touch me, then it's important. I don't want that, I don't want anything invisible touching me in the middle of the night. I don't want it knocking on my door either. No, thank you. But I think it's so important to understand that you can say no to that. It is
Hmm.
your energy, it is your aura, it is your body. And by God, with how busy we all are at night, that is your time. And so you have every right to say thank you, but no thank you, and really set that firm boundary. All it takes is setting that intention and saying it out loud.
And from the way this is written, the person wasn't scared or upset
No,
or
no.
frightened. So that goes back to what you said a few minutes ago about trust the energy that you're feeling around something.
Yeah. And I think that our spirit guides and our angels know that, right? Like
Hmm.
when I'm laying in bed and I shut everything off, I will often see a little spark, like an orb. Do you ever see that as you're falling
Yep.
asleep? And it's always up in the ceiling. And I feel like it's just my angels saying, like, good night, my dear. We're watching over you, all as well. And I love that. And it comforts me. And I'm sure they know that. And that's why that happens. Now, if my angel decided to pat me on the shoulder, oh, hell no. And so we think they understand who we are. And so possibly this is your animal guide, or the person who was gently touching you on your, I think it was on your shoulder, was an angel just saying, like, we're watching over you. We're protecting you while you sleep and during the day, all is well. And they understood that that wouldn't freak you out. Because if
Perfect.
it's something negative and they want to scare you, they're going to let that be known that they're not of the light.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, they definitely will. Okay. Our next one says Samantha mentioned a bird in the episode that was pecking at her mom's back door for a few months, and it really resonated with me. In early September to late December, I had a golden finch tapping and pecking at my bedroom window daily. At first, I thought it was so cute and nice to have this bird visiting me, kind of made me feel like Snow White. But when it kept coming back day after day for weeks, it started giving me an eerie feeling. I live in southern Ontario, Canada, and I found it odd that this bird was so active this late in the season. At this time, my stepmother was battling stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer, and my closest sister was 5 to 6 months pregnant. I couldn't help but think that this bird was here to tell me something, as it had now been around for nearly 4 months. I tried to stay positive and not worry about my family members going through major life changes. I had done some research on the spiritual meaning of seeing a golden finch, and most pointed toward optimism, health, and inner peace. This gave me hope. The morning of my birthday, December 21st, I was anticipating my golden friend to greet me while I sipped my morning coffee, but he did not appear. I figured he was just busy elsewhere, but I would see him later, as I had daily for nearly 4 months. He never came back. I interpreted that his work with me was complete. On January 24th, my cat Leo had gotten outside, was struck by a car, and passed away. The next day, the finch was back. Couldn't help but think that this bird was back to help me process or warn of another loss. My heart sank even deeper. My mind raced with horrible thoughts of possibilities of my sister having complications with her pregnancy or my stepmother succumbing to her battle with cancer. After only a week of this bird being back, it left. My father and stepmother received horrible news 2 days later. Her cancer was terminal and she would have only a couple of months to live. On March 7th, my sister birthed a beautiful baby boy. He is the first grandchild of our family as well as her husband's and is perfect in every way. 6 days later, our stepmother succumbed to her illness and passed away. To me, this golden finch was not only a messenger, but a symbol of the wheel of life. I lost my Leo, gained my nephew, and lost my stepmother, all within 2 months. Looking back, I feel deeply that a sacrifice of sorts was needed to ensure the safe passage of my nephew into this life. I know it sounds weird and maybe morbid, but it's just the feeling my intuition gave me and possibly a way for me just to make sense of it all. My stepmother wanted to be here for the birth of her grandchild, and she was, even if it was for just a short time. The dates of my nephew's birth and my stepmother's death are also very interesting from a numerological and astrological standpoint. Though sadness, beauty, love, and sadness again swept my emotions over those months, this bird and his visitations bring comfort to me now. Wow. Okay. First, I want to say that this is such a good reminder to me, and hopefully to all of us listening together, sometimes these things happen. The knocking at the door, the bird flying into the house, the golden finch visiting you every day. That summer in 2005, before my former husband was shot in the line of duty, when I found heart-shaped seashells on the beach every single day. And we have these things happen and we're like, what does it mean? What does it mean? Let me ask Samantha and Denise. Let me ask in meditation. And sometimes we don't know until everything happens and we're able to look back. And I'll tell you, like for me, when I found those heart-shaped seashells on the beach every day that summer, I knew it meant something. I just didn't know what. And when I was able to process everything that had happened and look back on it, those heart-shaped shells brought me so much comfort, because I realized that these beautiful moments in life and these tragic moments in life and these amazing births and deaths, it's all a part of life, and it's all here to serve us, to help us to grow. And it's such a difficult thing to accept in the moment when we're going through those difficult times, at least for me. If, like, when I was sitting in the hospital praying that Mike would live that summer, if someone had said, like, this is happening to you, Samantha, not for you, or, what is the saying, Denise? This is happening for you, not to you. I would have slapped them silly, right? You don't need to hear that. But
No.
upon reflection, and when everything's over and you can start dealing with it all and unpacking those emotions, it really is comforting to know that it's all, like our other listener was saying, time is not linear.
Mm-hmm. And
That's my rambling swamp thought. I think you need to help with that.
no, it wasn't swampy at all. But I think this also, from my perspective, mirrors that the bird was a messenger. Was it someone in spirit using that bird to say, there's some stuff coming up, but we're going to help you get through it? And the fact that as you were reading it, I was thinking about how many people that all of us know would hear this story and say, it was just a bird. It was there. Why are you making this into more of? It's not anything more than just a bird happens to be there. But when it's so consistent and persistent, as far as letting you know it's around, similar to your bird knocking on the window, how can you not take it as a sign or as something more? I think that the timing, the line of all the events in this that happened really do exemplify how connected we are to all that is.
I agree. Have you seen the bird test? It's kind of going around TikTok.
I don't TikTok, so I don't know.
Okay. All right. You're so much better than me, Denise.
No, I'm not better. I just don't. I don't know. Anyway, what's the bird test?
There's this thing going around. It's called the bird test. And it says if you're in a relationship or a friendship with someone and you're walking and you see a bird that you think is beautiful. Oh, look at that hawk. Oh, look at that finch perched on the tree. And your friend or partner doesn't really respond. Oh, yeah, it's a bird. Okay. And then keeps going. That's not a good sign for your relationship. But if the person says, oh, yeah, that is a beautiful hawk. Wow, what a great day it is out here, then that's a really good sign for your relationship. What do you think about that?
I think people have too much time on their hands.
Well, we have another bird question. So at least we
Okay.
can stay in the theme.
All right. The next one says, I keep finding crow feathers. Does this mean anything? I have been finding them at work while walking my dogs in the park. I even found one in the grocery store parking lot. I love crows. I think they are amazing. They're so smart. I mean, they have facial recognition. Like if they see you, they're going to recognize you. So don't do mean shit to crows because they're going to find you. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but they will. I think I shared this story a long time ago. There was this guy that was kind of angry, and he had crows in his yard, and he was yelling at him and throwing. And I said, you don't want to piss the crows off. They're not going to like it. And he said, oh, Denise, stop it. And he called me like 3 or 4 days later, and he said, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? And he said, the crows are here in Maine because of the snow loads. A lot of people have metal roofs, so the snow will slide off. And he had metal roofs, and the crows were up on top as soon as the sun was coming up, pecking on the top of the roof. And
Wow.
and he said, how do I make them stop? And I said, you're not going to believe me, but you need to go out and you need to apologize to them and say you're sorry. And he said, oh, that's crazy. And I said, it's going to work. Just take my word for it. And he called me back and he said, they're gone. He said, but they gave me a dirty look. So anyway, crows are fascinating. They're a dear, dear friend of mine has strong crow medicine and does a lot with crows, and they're just a fabulous bird. But this is a little quick thing from the Pocket Guide to Spirit Animals by Dr. Stephen Farmer. And it just says crows are about you're on the verge of manifesting something you've been working toward for a while. Be very watchful over the next couple of days for any clear omens or signs that will guide you and teach you. Expect a big change very soon. You've noticed something that's out of balance or an injustice that hasn't been addressed, and it's important to speak up about it. And you're about to get a glimpse into some future event that affects you directly. So some of that may apply, but I think when there's a consistency in certain types of feathers or birds or animals showing up, it's always good to pay attention. And don't piss them off.
And don't piss them off. Oh, that's really funny. Okay, our last one just really summarizes up so many emails I've gotten in the last several weeks. And I just want to thank everyone for reaching out to send condolences about the passing of my mom. And, Denise, a lot of listeners have sent me beautiful cards. And
Oh,
I called Deb, who's like my Southern, lady friend. Like she knows all the Southern polite stuff. And I'm like, I really want to like thank these. Like, do you send a thank you card for a card? That doesn't really make sense, right? But she said, no, Samantha, it's fine to just accept the card. But I want to just say thank you so much for taking time to do all of that. And this email, I just want to share because, like I said, I've gotten a lot like this. And it says, I'm so very sorry for your loss. Hearing this made my heart sink deeply. And I can only imagine all the complicated feelings you must have around this profound loss. I'm sending you much love, positive vibes, and strength as you heal. I also want to thank you and her for sharing all the stories about your relationship through the years. I've seen myself in so many of them and know the frustration, sadness, and anger of a cantankerous mom. I just have to say, however, that you've been a wonderful role model of hope, that dealing with a difficult mother can be done with grace, humor, and dignity. You've helped me see, too, that spiritually, we all play divine roles for one another, and our moms lovingly volunteered in the before earth to give us lessons on decency, boundaries, strength, and self-love, even if it's showing us what not to do, LOL. Anyway, I'll be praying for your mom that she's crossed over safely and is healing and happy with your dad on the other side. Hats off to her for playing her role magnificently and shaping such a loving, beautiful, strong, and soulful person like yourself. May she rest in peace and love until you see each other again. So I just thought that was such a beautiful note. And I also just wanted to say, like I said, I got so many emails like this that I put them into like a little folder on my desktop, because what kept coming up, Denise, and has through the years of doing this show with you, is thank you for sharing your stories about your mom. And I know I've said this before, but I really do feel that there is still an unspoken taboo about sharing that you have a difficult relationship with your mom. I don't feel it that much with the dads. Do you know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
But to say like, yeah, my mom's kind of mean, or my mom's really negative, or, my mom didn't speak to me for 2 years over this stupid thing or whatever. There's like a taboo about that. And I used to feel it a lot when I talked on the podcast. And, sometimes my sisters would call me and be like, shut up, like stop sharing stuff. Right. And so I felt really bad about that. And then I would get these emails and I was like, no, like, I think it's so important to break this taboo, because the one thing that, well, there's several things that motivate me in life, but one that's incredibly motivating to me is honesty and authenticity. Nothing pisses me off more than fake, phony people, right? And I I can't be fake on this show. I can't be fake in my life. And I think it's important to be honest about all of you and all of your relationships. And so having a difficult relationship with a mother is so hard because I don't think anywhere in society gives us the language or the tools or even the emotions to properly comprehend a lack of mother love. It is a wound and it's hard to deal with. So anyway,
That
I'm
was a beautiful note and a beautiful thank you for sharing that from your heart, because it takes a level of bravery to share situations that are taboo or that are maybe not as socially acceptable. And one of the things that I don't share as openly about some of my family of origin stuff, but because we were both raised Catholic, and for many, many years, I would play that over and over and over in my head, honor thy mother and father. And I would think, how do you do that if you're not feeling honored or loved or supported? And you made a really important point of, by sharing that transparency, by allowing yourself to be that vulnerable with the listeners, you are allowing other people to heal as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, a book I would recommend just on that point is Alice Miller, The Body Never Lies. She has a whole chapter on that fourth commandment and how it's a contradiction in terms, you know, where she says that we cannot delude ourselves or deceive our bodies when someone is being rude or mean to us. And so that's a really good book for processing just that idea. I do want to share something kind of funny real quick before we wrap up. When my sisters and I were trying to write our eulogies, it kind of bothered us because we didn't have like a lot of loving memories that we could easily draw up, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have an angry parent, there's not going to be a lot of cuddly, warm memories. And we wrote kind of funny eulogies about some of the rules mom taught us in life, like you can never be too overdressed. But it did bother me. It has sat with me. And about a week after the funeral, I woke up on a Sunday morning. I have no memory of a dream. I don't think I dreamt that night, even though I know that's not physically true. We always dream. But it was just like I fell asleep and then 7 hours later opened my eyes. But I had this memory that I had completely forgotten about. I was in this reading program in the sixth grade, and the reading teacher quit with like 6 weeks to go in the semester. And so they asked parents to volunteer to finish teaching it. I think we were reading Lord of the Flies. And my mom volunteered. My mom, who like really never showed up to stuff at my school, right? Like when
Mm-hmm.
I crowned Mother Mary, she wasn't there and it was heartbreaking. But this one, she showed up for 6 weeks. Every Friday for 6 weeks, she came. She read the book. My classmates loved her. She brought like whole king size Hershey bars every Friday for everyone in the class. And so they really loved her. And I and she was funny and she was charming. And anyway, it shamed me for a moment to realize I'd forgotten that. But as I sat up in bed, I was like looking for my phone to text my sisters. And then I just had this, I could feel and almost hear my mom going, "See, now calm down, bitch. I did do some things right." And it was with such like the feeling was with such humor. It wasn't with any feeling of shame or how could you forget that. It was just like kind of a funny, like, yep, there aren't a whole lot of great memories, but here's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like it was a little sign from her. And I'm sure more will start to come to the surface as I heal. So thank you guys so much for taking time to keep my family and me and my mom in your thoughts and prayers. And it is funny that that listener said, now she's with your dad, because that's something else my sisters and I joked about. Like, well, dad had about a year of peace over there in heaven. Now she'll be over there. Tom, what are you wearing? Okay. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for taking time out to listen to the show and share all your beautiful thoughts and stories and synchronicities and questions with us. Please remember you can always email us enlightenedempaths@gmail.com. We'd love for you to join us on our Facebook page, Enlightened Empaths. And as always, show up, do great work, and share your light.
Take care.